Hey, this is Harold. Today is Tuesday, February 17th, and in today's video, we will be going over the two losses that I took today. So, today we took a loss of $419 and we ended up taking two trades. The first trade was a loss of negative 116 with the planned R multiple of 1.77, realizing a R multiple of negative 0.3. So I kind of took this trade out early, almost moved it to break even, but it wasn't quite break even. The trade after, we took a loss of $303 with the planned R multiple of 2.96 and a realized R multiple of 1. Okay, so let me just go over the daily plan that I had for today. And like always, it's a screenshot so I can just draw for you guys. But coming into the market on Thursday, we created a level of supply here, had a big sell off, and then we consolidated, right, for the past 2 days, Friday and Monday. Monday was a bank holiday, but there's always going to be some action, but we were just pretty much consolidating below or outside of this value area. And right now, the weekly and the monthly value area lows are pretty much the same area. But yeah, so we were trading below the value areas. So going into today, I was leaning slightly bearish, meaning that it's not that I'm looking to only take shorts, but I have more of a conviction if a short were to play out. And I tend to go for bigger R plays on the side where I have the bias. Right, so for shorts today, we were looking at this level, 68.04. It's a previous value area low, as well as an area where price bounced. We had support here and support here pre-market. This is during the live market time, so I don't count that. That's where we took our short. We were looking for price to break below 68.04, targeting this level of demand at 67.82. Okay, and for longs, we were looking at this previous value area high as well as this value area high. We're looking for a break of this level, targeting back up to these weekly value area lows. And it seems like the target hit here. This one almost hit. Today was a day of just almost hit targets, right? I mean, eventually both plans I was able to execute, but they both ended up not working out. So going into the first trade here, I ended up not following my plan. So the first trade I took was a long, and this is the opening candle on a 2-minute chart. We saw a good amount of volume. We saw very good aggression as well. And this is the reason I took the trade, is because we saw buying aggression. We saw sellers attempting to sell off, aggressive buyers holding. We saw an aggressive break to the upside. This level is the pre-market high. This is the original level, 68, 67, that I wanted to play a breakout off of, but I ended up taking the trade here because I saw a good entry confirmation in terms of, I would say I saw a good entry model, like my entry model appeared, but the one thing that I didn't notice was the volume. So I was actually quite tunnel vision today. It's the first trade that I took off of this new funded account that I'm trying out. So when I got into the trade, just looking at the trade, I felt a little bit tunnel visioned, and even when it was giving me some signs I wasn't able to properly diagnose what was going on, as well as long weekend holiday. Like, I tend to trade bad on these type of days, and I knew that going into it. But yeah, let me just explain. This I wouldn't even consider it a bad trade. I thought it was a good trade. I saw the 5 minute, we had confirmation. We had a P shape here, right? The level that we broke out of was right here, 68.47. Had a P. Actually had two of these that broke up to the upside. The only negative here was the volume, right? And the delta. The opening candle volume was 26,000 lots. I get that the selling volume was, low on a breakout, but the candle that I usually take, we want higher volume, right? We either want the volume to be increasing from the previous candle, or we at least want it to be similar to the opening candle, because of course the opening candle is an outlier. There's always going to be a lot more volume on the opening candle, but we still want it to be somewhat similar, like maybe like 22k at least, right? Maybe if it doesn't hit 26, we want slightly more delta percent, maybe at least, I would say even like 5 to 10%, right? So I took the trade right over here when the candle closed. This was my entry. My stop was, it was right around here. It's about 7 points under. This was my stop. And a rule that I consistently use is, my break even rule is usually a 1-to-1. So if my risk is 6 points, or if it's 7 points, my break even is usually 7 points above my entry. And at this one, I decided to just put it at 68.60 flat. So this was my break even. This was 68.59.75 right here. 68.79.75. Oh, sorry, 68.59. So I barely missed my break even point, but after seeing this, I realized, okay, I do want to take this trade break even, especially after attempting to break above. We get rejected, and we get rejected for a second time here. We see price decreasing with the highs increasing. This is a pretty good sign of exhaustion, something I wasn't able to notice during the trade, but in hindsight I see it now. But after this candle formed, I actually moved my stop up right over here, and this was like a 2.5 risk stop, 2R. And the reason I did that was because even though I was feeling slightly tunnel visioned, just from experience, like, I could tell that the price was not moving the way I wanted it to on a breakout. And usually when that happens, I'm pretty quick to take my losses. I'd rather take a small loss than take a big loss, right? Price ended up getting very aggressive, sellers got aggressive and stopped me out here. So that was the first trade. The biggest thing that I can take away from this first trade is the lack of volume. So 16,000 to 14 to 11. That's a big red flag. Price not being able to finish above previous highs, but rather closing below, is also another red flag. And then just seeing an increase in volume here with negative delta percent is another red flag. And on top of all that, this was never part of my plan. And I think the fact that it was never part of my plan was what made it a lot more like anxious for me and more tunnel vision, because now I was praying and hoping, like, oh, I hope this just works out. But I still had this part of me that was able to somewhat control and mitigate my loss, but not to the full extent, right? So That was the first trade. The second trade that I took, we saw aggressive sellers to the downside, keep seeing aggressive selling here, and we are actually able to take the trade at 68.04, where my original plan was right over here. Take it for a short. I took my entry right over here. This is my entry. My stop was about right here. We had a solid B shape. Volume, also the problem. So today's biggest problem for me was the fact that I was looking at volume, but yeah, it was lacking. And I wish that I kind of could have noticed, but in the end, I thought that this was a great trade. Even though volume was slightly lacking, I considered this a C grade volume. A grade would be something like this. B grade would be something like this. This is usually C grade. I take up to C grade volume trades, so I wasn't too mad about that. The delta percent was higher, so there was more selling initiation to the downside. We broke our level clean, right? Here we see buyers get absorbed. Here we see more aggressive buyers get absorbed and not able to follow through, right? So I thought this was a good trade. Price ended up reversing and never really hitting the target. And if I can just explain one thing to you guys, I have a very hard rule, and that is one loss on the day. So one loss for the day. And clearly I broke that today, right? I took 2 losses on the day. But the reason I was able to somewhat bypass this rule, which I do at times, is because the first loss that I took was a $100 loss. Usually on average I'm risking $400 per trade. So to me, this almost felt like a break-even trade, right? And the only way I would have taken another trade was if my plan was coming to fruition, if my actual plan was playing out and I had an opportunity to take a trade there. Then I told myself, okay, if everything else looks good and it's the actual plan that we wrote down, then we can take another trade. Make sure that you're not losing more than 400 on the day. We ended up losing 420 on the day. I wasn't trying to be super exact, right? I made sure to make this stop loss at 300 max because I knew that I already lost 100 on the day. So losses are going to be inevitable. Losses are always going to be part of trading. It's definitely about how you handle those losses, right? And sometimes your rules are going to be broken. We are human. Rules will be broken, emotions will come in, but how do you handle yourself after that loss? Do you get mad? Do you start throwing things around? Do you have an anger tantrum? Right? How do you handle yourself after a loss? To me, this was a loss and it sucked, and now I'm negative in this funded account and I still have to create a buffer and all this and that. But I don't think this really hurts me, right? I would have to take 4 more of these days to lose my account in a row. And I have the confidence in myself and in my edge and in the things that I learned today to not make the same mistakes that I did today, tomorrow, right? So going into tomorrow, I'm just going to be a little bit more wary about volume, about taking my trade where I told myself I'm going to take, not at a different level, just because it seems exciting and it seems like it's going to work out, right? My original trade was for longs to take it up here. I ended up taking it down here. In hindsight, if I look at it, what difference would this have made, right? This is the 20-point difference in price. But if price was really strong and it was willing to discover new areas, then this would have been just as valid as this. But I think just seeing the good confirmations or seeing the good entry model play out, right? Not thinking as much about the context, which I should have. I ended up getting greedy and I just wanted to win. But, I had a good win streak. I take my loss today. Maybe I'll take another loss tomorrow, but I'm not going to let it affect me. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and I'm going to let the probabilities play out for me. All right. So, tomorrow, hopefully, I can get a win for you guys and show you guys a win. But that will be it for the day. Thank you. Peace.